This is an English educational experience production.
All right, so this is Mr. English picking up where we left off. I apologize for the glitch that happened, but babies wake up. So we're going to continue on with question 9 here, and we've gone ahead and we've selected C, protection from cruel and unusual punishment, 4, 6, and 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. It seems a natural progression. Or it says court proceedings down here, and it's talking about this, but these questions are specifically about what fits under the due process of law. Okay? So question 9, we went ahead and we want to make sure that question 9 fit into the New Republic era, so we set that up. Okay? Right, moving on, question 10. All right. After the end of the Revolutionary War, at the end of the Revolutionary War, states were eager to expand into newly available territory. Also, we know it's after the end of the Revolutionary War. Since it's after, that means question 10 is going to fit into the New Republic era. So we have 3, 6, 9, 10, 1, 5, and 8, 2, 7, and then we have no questions for the Civil War yet. We've got 1 for Reconstruction. Okay? Eager to expand the states of New York. It's a middle colony. Connecticut, New England, Massachusetts, New England, Virginia, Southern, so they're all represented there. Argued over competing claims to land west of the Appalachian Mountains. That land west of the Appalachian Mountains, we look at our map here. Look at where Virginia is going to be, and we look west of the Appalachian Mountains right here. We got Kentucky, Tennessee, and that Northwest Territory. Okay, this conflict was addressed by we got the Missouri Compromise. Well, the Missouri Compromise isn't going to happen until we are starting to move way out west. So when we're moving way out west, this is going to be westward expansion, and we know that this entire question is in era number 3. This is New Republic. So I'm going to choose an answer choice that's outside of the era of the question. I am not. The Wilmot Proviso, that's also going to be later on. We're going to be talking about that later. Let's go with Reconstruction there. The Northwest Ordinance, well, we know we are moving northwest in that map. We know that that fits into the New Republic because we are moving beyond. So this is New Republic. And the Kansas-Nebraska Act, that is again going to be in westward expansion leading up to the Civil War. So westward expansion. And when we take a look at these, which one of these actually fits into the era? Oh, you're right, the Northwest Ordinance fits. So let's go ahead and highlight that bad boy right there. And we'll select H as our answer. And we're all good to go. Make sure that you have all of your questions ordered according to their era so that you understand this. So that you know the Missouri Compromise's westward expansion does not fit. So you know the Wilmot Proviso is going to happen way later. And then you know the Kansas and Nebraska Act happens in westward expansion. It's one of those things that leads up to the Civil War. It's going to come later. So make sure that you've got that going on. Cool? Moving on. Question 11. Here we go. Uncle Tom's Cabin. Now, I don't know if we can zoom in. Let's see if we can zoom in for you. Can't zoom in any further than that. We've got Uncle Tom's Cabin, and you can't see this, but there's 245,000 copies printed. And down here, we've got this date that looks like 1852. Can't quite make it out, but it's in there. It's in the 1850s. All right, 1850s in there. I'm sure if we zoomed in, we could, but we can't do that right now. It says, what was one major impact? We're talking about that creator of this novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin, Life Among the Lowly. We know this is about slavery, and we know that it's written by, let's see, we got an edition. Where's her name? Where's her name? Already published. There it is. Harriet Beecher Stowe. Harriet is a lady's name. Okay. This is an abolitionist. We're talking about abolition. Abolition here. We know it's in the 1850s, so we can add this to our timeline. All right, so 1850s, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Cool. Got that in there. 1850s. I'll write that up there. So we feel good about having that date in there. It's out there. It's in the 1850s. It's before the Civil War, and it's after this. So Uncle Tom's Cabin is going to fit into here. We take a look at our reforms for slavery, freedom, liberation. So this question is going to be question 11, and it fits neatly into there. Okay? So profit. What is profit? Profit is money. Money from book sales funded early labor organizations. Well, that's one of the reforms, but it has nothing to do with slavery. Not slavery. Congress was inspired to pass laws outlawing the abuse of slaves. Well, that's going to be in Reconstruction. It's going to be 13, 14, and 15. So that's beyond this. This is era number westward expansion. This is westward expansion / industrial revolution. And that's Reconstruction, so that's not going to fit. This might, though, but it's not about slavery. The Supreme Court overturned fugitive slave laws. Well, the Supreme Court never did that, so never happened. Never happened. And support grew for the abolitionist movement. Well, this book is about slavery and trying to abolish the practice of it. So we see abolition. This is free slaves. So is it going to be about the money for the book and labor organizations, or is it going to be a support for the abolitionist movement? If you said D, you're 100% correct. Cool? All right. Let's move on to question 12, shall we? All right, British colonists objected to the Proclamation of 1763. So we got British colonist Proclamation of 1763 because well, it says British colonists. It's not saying Americans. So it says British colonists. Then we're going to set this up for the era. We're finally going to have a question that fits here. Question 12. This is the only time that we have those colonists. Americans, colonists, Americans, all Americans, colonists and Americans. Make sure you get that set up. Cool? So the Proclamation of 1763, which means I can now add one more date to my timeline. There's about 1750s in the middle there, so we'll call this 1763, the Proclamation. And you should remember that the Proclamation line is, you got it, that's the Proclamation line right there, known as the Appalachian Mountains. Okay, 1763. All right, so why did they object? They feared it would provoke attacks from American Indians. Were they afraid? Did not want to share control of the fur trade with France. Well, France was over there, that's New France. Resented the limits it imposed on westward expansion. Well, why would they object to the proclamation? Why would they object to that border? And J, wanted to be able to trade freely with foreign nations. Well, they're pretty much already doing that because of those port cities. Feared it would provoke attacks from American Indians. Well, they're not worried about that. They know what's going to happen anyway. Did not want to share control with the fur trade with France. They were more than willing to share and get along. Resented the limits imposed on westward expansion. Well, were they allowed to cross that border? Was that what the proclamation was? Because this one, make sure that you know that the Appalachian Mountains equals the border. And people always hate being told what to do and that you can't cross that line. Your parents tell you you can't go outside. One of the first things you're going to try to do is you're going to try to go outside. Okay? So, wanted to be able to trade freely with foreign nations. Well, they've got mercantilism, so they're already dealing with that right there. So, resented the limits it imposed on westward expansion. Cool. So, there we go. It's question 12 for you. Make sure you got that going on. Okay. So, let's move on to question 13 real quick, and then we're going to pause, and I'll come back to this. Which of these describes a result of the 13th Amendment? So we need a result. So what happened when this did? The 13th Amendment. Well, the 13th Amendment fits into what era? 13th Amendment right there, and the Civil War. So question number 12, question 13, excuse me. We finally have a question for the Civil War era. Thank goodness. Question 13 fits right in there with the 13th Amendment. So result of the 13th Amendment. And remember, 13, 14, and 15. 13, 14, and 15 has a sentence. Free citizens vote. So let's take a look. African Americans in the North could vote. Well, where they could vote. That's 15, but it's not just North. It should be all, so we'll cross that out, so that doesn't work. State governments are required to protect individual rights. Well, this is the Bill of Rights, and that fits into the New Republic. So again, that doesn't work for this era. This era is going to be the Civil War era. This is Civil War. It's the end of the Civil War anyway. It's the end of the Civil War era. So this is in the era. This is not in the era. Former Confederate officials were prohibited from holding elected office. Well, this again is in the Reconstruction era. So that's afterwards, so that doesn't fit, and that never happened. And D, African Americans in the South could move elsewhere. Well, if you're allowed to move elsewhere, then you can say that you are free to move. So if you're free to move elsewhere. Free to move. And prior to this, they were owned. Were they allowed to leave? Nope, because they were a slave. There you go. D is going to be your answer choice. So we got it set up for our era. We go through the process of elimination, making sure that you're taking a look at which one actually fits into which era. And the only errors that actually fit for this are going to be A, that fits in there, and then D, that fits in there too. But these two come close, but not really. Cool? All right, so let's pause there, and then we'll come back in a little bit.
This is an English Educational Experience production.